So let's compare the super budget Samsung Galaxy A15 with the super expensive, super flagship iPhone 15 Pro. Interesting comparison, especially with the price. The Galaxy is free on prepaid, such as Metro, places like Cricket, places like Track Phone, Boost Mobile, places like that. Either it's free or very, very low price, under $50. But most places that I've seen, you can get it for free. And the iPhone, when you compare it, it is $1,000. But again, let's compare all the features and see what's better on each of these devices. So the first thing I'll compare is just the feel and weight of the devices in your hand. And the Galaxy A15 is actually a premium feeling phone. The Galaxy A mid-range line, lower mid-range, it really feels good. It actually feels better than the previous model. It's very hefty. It weighs more than the iPhone 15 Pro at 7 ounces. The iPhone 15 Pro just a little bit under 7 ounces, but it actually feels good. The Galaxy A15, it feels premium. These free and cheaper Samsung and Android phones in general are just feeling a lot more substantial in the hand, feeling more quality, even though sometimes you don't really know how cheap the material is, but it feels good in the hand. So between these devices, they're gonna feel actually pretty similar when you hold them in your hand, although the iPhone is made out of higher grade material. Next big thing is the SIM card. The Galaxy A15 has a single nano SIM card slot, while the iPhone 15 Pro has dual SIM capabilities with multiple eSIMs, and in certain regions it has the physical SIM card slot. But for the majority of people in the world, like here in the US, it's going to be eSIM only. So that's something that is going to be, a pretty bad situation for a lot of people, especially, you can't pick every carrier that you want and expect it to have eSIM. Here in the US, we have a lot of choices with eSIM, but if you're traveling around the world, it hasn't been that prevalent. Although there's a lot of services and apps that you could download an eSIM on the fly and travel freely, but that's mostly for data and your phone number. You might not get a phone number, but it's going to be a lot of hard work to get the iPhone 15 Pro into the hands of a lot of people if they cannot use their SIM card. So actually, it's a win for the Galaxy A15 in this regard. Next, let's talk about the refresh rate on these displays. The Galaxy A15 has a respectable 90 hertz refresh rate screen, which is pretty much in the middle of screens these days. You get 60 hertz, 90 hertz, and 120 hertz, and some gaming phones 144 hertz. And when you compare it to the 120 hertz on the iPhone 15 Pro, it's not that bad when you consider the price and the tier of both of these devices. So very nice on the Galaxy A15. 90 hertz sits right in the middle for the free price. So that's a big win for the Galaxy. You might not see that much of a difference between the 120 hertz on the iPhone and the Galaxy's 90. Next, screen size. The Galaxy A15 has a beautiful big 6.5 inch display, while the iPhone 15 Pro has a more compact 6.1 inch display. So if you like a lot of content on your screen, you like a lot of screen real estate, obviously the Samsung has you covered with that nice big phone screen. For media, pictures, viewfinder, games, anything, usually big phones are better simply because you can see more content at the same time. But if you're into more compact devices, the iPhone's for you. So to each their own, but I think it's a big win overall. Bigger is better. Next is the software. Probably the most important thing about these phones, and any phone for that matter. You got Samsung UI on the Galaxy, while you have iOS on the iPhone. And you're going to find your most popular apps on both of these devices, so that's not going to be a big deal for a lot of people. But here's the difference between these: you can customize a lot of stuff on the Samsung, and there's just some features that are actually quite better than the iPhone. For example, I like how it has kids mode on there. You could give it to your child or whatever, and they won't have access to your files. And the iPhone is very stubborn; it does not have kids mode. The Galaxy, you just customize a lot more stuff. It's a lot more better than the Pixel UI that's found on Pixel devices. So you can customize a lot more stuff on the Samsung Galaxy. But there's one thing that I always go back to on the iPhone, and that's its ecosystem of certain apps such as iMessage, iMovie, AirDrop, FaceTime, things like that. Although for the most part, people could use other apps that are available on both ecosystems like WhatsApp, Telegram. But I will repeat this a couple of times. If you're into using video editors, there is not a viable one that gives you top-notch features like iMovie on Android. Samsung doesn't make it really good. Google doesn't have anything really. You have to get third-party apps, and they're not free, and they're not even as good as iMovie. So if I had to pick that one feature that separates both of these devices, it's going to be video editing features. One thing that these phones share in common, which is important as well, is the storage. Both of these phones have 128 gigs of storage, which is an upgrade from last year's model on the Galaxy A14. That one only had 64. So these cheap, low price phones are on par with the same internal storage as the $1,000 counterparts. Now, another thing about the Galaxy A15, which is nice, like a lot of other Android phones, is it has a SD card slot, so you could actually expand it even more to hold more movies and files and pictures and games and apps. So that's always something that's a bonus to a lot of people, and the iPhone cannot compete with that because you cannot expand it. Next, I'll mention real quick, obviously the iPhone always has great chipsets, and RAM, it doesn't really matter what RAM they have because they're very efficient. But simply from the internal side, the Galaxy A15 is at the lower end of the spectrum. I won't get into the details. It has a MediaTek processor and 4 gigs of RAM, depending which model you get. But that's pretty low on RAM. And for normal people, if they're not power users of the phone, and they really won't notice it being, slowing down or being choppy. The iPhone 15 Pro pretty much doesn't have any buffering, any stuttering. It's very smooth and fast. Doesn't matter what you throw at it. But you got to be careful with the Samsung Galaxy A15 with that middling chipset and the 4 gigs of RAM. But most of the time, if you're doing normal tasks and you're not taxing it, it shouldn't be a problem. And next is going to be cameras. And for most people, that is a big deal. Unfortunately, the A15, it is a terrible phone camera. It takes terrible videos and terrible photos if you're not in a perfect situation. And unlike the iPhone 15 Pro, it just doesn't have any of the video editing capabilities. So you're not going to do much in the way of taking videos and pictures. And then once you do take those videos and pictures, what do you do with them? You can't really turn them into anything that crazy. So that's one big difference between cheap Android phones and expensive iPhones, is going to be the camera system. The cameras on the Galaxy A15, although it has 3 cameras on the back, they're not that good. They're usable at best, while the iPhone 15 Pro, that's why you're getting the expensive iPhone, is if you really are into taking great videos and great pictures, and then having a great editing experience. So that's one huge difference between cheap phones and expensive phones, and this comparison is not any different. One difference between these devices as well, not a big one, but for a lot of people it's very important, me myself included, is that the Galaxy A15 has a headphone jack and the iPhone does not. It relies on USB Type-C. So that's a fail for the iPhone, because there's a lot of instances where we still use the headphone jack. You can still use regular headphones, and in my case I connected to my car via aux, and I have less issues connecting the Galaxy than the iPhone. So that's something that's very important to a lot of people. One little simple old feature, which is still a good feature, it's the advantage, the cheap Android phone over the expensive iPhone. Next is Bluetooth. We have 5.3 in both of these, so that's actually a very good comparison right there, because it shows a cheap Android phone has the same exact newer Bluetooth feature as the expensive $1,000 iPhone. And it doesn't matter too much in the sense that you're going to get any crazy new features with higher Bluetooth, but it's, the newer the Bluetooth, the better audio quality, the better stability, and you don't get a lot of disconnections. So it's nice to see both of these have the same feature. Next, this thing should be on every single smartphone, doesn't matter what price point, but both of these have NFC, and that's pretty much means you can make payments with tap to pay on these devices. And it's nice to see the cheap Android phone getting this, and it's pretty much becoming the minimum on an Android phone to have NFC. If your Android phone doesn't have NFC, then it's garbage. Don't even consider buying it. But now these lower end phones are actually coming with it standard, and it competes nicely with these $1,000 phones. The cheaper Android phones are getting better, cheaper, and having the same type of bang for your buck as these more expensive phones, but at a lower price point. One big shared thing with these devices now is that both of these phones have USB Type-C. Android has been having it forever, and the iPhone is finally, both models have a USB Type-C for charging. And I think that's awesome, because now you could use the same charger for both of these devices, or the same charger from your laptop. So that's pretty nice right there. I love USB-C type charging. I've just seen it be better and faster than Lightning, and it's just a better experience for everybody. And yeah, USB Type-C, it's you finally have this on cheap Android phones, and you get the same exact. Apple adopted the same simple fast charging method as Android phones, so that's awesome. Next, unlocking these devices are a bit different. You have the side fingerprint reader on the Galaxy A15, and then you have Face ID on the iPhone. They accomplish the same goal of unlocking your device and using biometrics to secure stuff and securely pay for stuff. The nice thing about the side fingerprint reader is that you could open it while it's in your pocket, whip it out, it's open. Very easy, very simple. The iPhone, you have to be looking at your device, and it can't be unlocked while it's in your pocket. But they both accomplish the same goals. Both are speedy, but one's a cheap device, one's an expensive device, and they're different ecosystems. And finally, we have battery life, very important feature, and we've come a long way over the years of battery life, but the Galaxy A15 has a standard, nice, big, beefy 5,000 milliamp battery champ, while the iPhone 15 Pro doesn't have the same big size battery. It has a little bit over 3,000 milliamps of juice, but Apple has really improved its efficiency with battery. And I also found that having USB Type-C, it charges the iPhone 15 Pro very, very fast. And also iOS has implemented a charging system that limits it to charge to only 80%, which in turn saves the battery over the years. It doesn't drain your battery's health over the years. So thus, the battery will stay more fresh longer. And you really don't have to worry about the Galaxy A15's battery life, because it charges fast, it lasts all day, it's just simply a bigger, beefier battery. So we went through all the specs and all the features that stand out, the most important ones to me. And I gotta say that the two biggest things that stand out between these devices is going to be the price, which is free on the Galaxy, $1,000 on the iPhone. And the other thing is going to be the camera systems. The camera's junk on the Galaxy, while the iPhone has crisp, nice video and pictures. And then an extra thing is the video editing. You cannot do pretty much anything meaningful on the Samsung, while iMovie is just one of the nice options on iOS and the iPhone. So you have those three things that make a huge difference between these devices. And there's a lot of features that are simply on the Android phone that are not even offered on the $1,000 device of the iPhone. But for everyday people, keep that in mind. If you like videos and pictures, get the iPhone. Android is junk. Do not ever pick an Android phone for its video and camera taking abilities unless you get a Pixel, but then you have no real way of editing and turning those pictures and videos into something of a project. But besides that, I love the low price of the Galaxy A15. The build quality, it feels solid in your hand. Battery is nice. It has the same features and software as a more expensive Samsung phone, and it has the SD card slot. There's just a lot of good things to like about the Galaxy A15, except the camera situation. All your apps can be found. The most popular ones on both of these ecosystems. And for the everyday user, the Galaxy A15, if you know how to use it right, you'll have a blast using it, and it's a way better bang for your buck than the iPhone 15 Pro. That's been my video on both of these devices. Thank you.